based on our feedback from Monday's governing board study session and informed by input from some other medical experts, I'd like to share a brief presentation and recommendation for an amendment to our existing reopening criteria. So as you recall, we adopted our current reopening criteria on August 6th based on the work of SCORE, input from medical experts, and guidance provided by the Arizona Department of Health Services. We established criteria for a return to in-person learning in alignment with the guidance of AZDHS at 10 cases per 100,000 population and testing positivity below 5%. Our criteria for a return to online learning differed from AZDHS with a return trigger at 50 cases per 100,000 population. And so, based on the feedback from Monday's governing board study session and informed by our medical experts, for your consideration and potential approval is a recommendation to amend our reopening criteria to the following. In order for PV schools to return to a distance learning model for all students, the following criteria would need to be met. And that would be above 100 cases per 100,000 persons or above 10% testing positivity. In either case, the target would need to be met for 2 weeks before a change in learning modality would occur. These targets would continue to be measured via the district level data available on the Maricopa County Department of Public Health dashboard, which is updated every Thursday at 9 a.m. I appreciate your consideration, and the staff and I are available to answer any further questions.
If nobody else on the board has anything for the moment, I would like us to consider some different metrics for criteria for returning to distance learning for all students. We are currently, the recommendation has changed for going to in-person learning, essentially, multiplying the base level, shall we say, by quite a bit, but we haven't done anything to really look at the upper level. I believe, most medical professionals will tell you that when the pandemic hit and as cases started expanding, they expanded exponentially. So it wasn't just a 2 + 2. It was 2 times 2 times 2 times, etc. And they expanded very quickly. I know there is some discussion that we could be looking at a second wave. And if we do, it will come very quickly. And I think we need to be very cognizant that if we are suddenly, if we maintain this sort of 30 case per 100,000 level for quite some time, we have our testing positivity below 5, and then all of a sudden we see it start spiking. I think it's irresponsible not to look at that and be prepared to close further or close quickly. So I would appreciate if we could consider some different criteria that really allows us to do that. Maybe that if we hit, 85 cases per 100,000, that we be prepared. That if the next week, rather than we wait 2 weeks at 100, that if the next week has hit 95 or 100, we shut it down. I can't imagine that if we're at 95, suddenly we're dropping back down to 60 or something.
If I may, too, President Greenberg, one based on what you were just sharing, too, one possible suggestion for Amendment 2 is, with that upper trigger, if we wanted to say that with that upper trigger, if we met that even for 1 week, that we would then move back to a distance learning model. I think that would be, a way to accommodate what you're suggesting there. So, obviously, we are continuing to monitor that data on a weekly basis. If we start to see we're moving toward that point, I think we could obviously give our families an alert, letting them know that we're seeing a pattern towards that. And then when we got to that point, that would trigger it at that point. I think that's just an option.
I could go with that option, that we do 1 week the minute it hits.
And what did you say?
I could go with that option, that we don't wait 2 weeks. If we hit one of these metrics, we're going to go down, because it's not like we're going to be at 36 cases and the next week we're going to be at 100. We're going to know it's heading there.
Hang on, I think that was Dr. Lau. Hold on.
Yes, that was me, Dr. Lau.
I just wanted to point out to the board members that I think we need to be very careful in how you are potentially mixing the data and sort of creating your own set of metrics. And I think for transparency purposes and fairness to parents and teachers, with whatever decision you guys make today, I think it would be critical to include in any future surveys or questionnaires or decision-making tools or what have you, to make it clear to parents that if you're adopting your own set of metrics for return to school or closures or what have you, that it is not currently in line with Maricopa County Department of Public Health and the Arizona Department of Health Services, so that people know that, because I think a lot of parents and community members would assume that a leadership board is following them in a certain direction. And so I think it would just be really important to include some of that data. And I will point out that currently Maricopa County Department of Public Health and the Arizona Department of Health Services have set forth these guidelines, these colors, if you will, about low risk, moderate risk, and high risk, and how they relate to what scenarios are safe based on a lot of data. These numbers were not come up with totally arbitrarily. And currently, their recommendation, as you know, is for a hybrid model of learning is appropriate for the Paradise Valley School District. And so while initially the district adopted maybe a more cautious approach, requiring that we're sort of in the green, if you will, to return to school, science would support, through Maricopa County Department of Public Health and the AZDHS, would currently support returning some kids to school based on the metrics where we are right now, but only in a hybrid model. And as Dr. Welsh said, if you don't feel that this could truly be looked at as offering a hybrid model, and that what we are really doing is opening our district to traditional learning, the county health department and the Arizona State Department have both agreed that it is not yet safe to offer a traditional learning model for schools until we meet both green metrics. So I just want to make it clear that I think the board should be very transparent with parents and the community about what you're doing as you go forward.
President Greenberg.
Yes, Ms. Ventura.
I just wanted to say I agree using the 1 week to trigger the change as we're going up, because we do have that entire time that we're watching that we will be alerting the public and begging the public to please help us with our metrics. But I do think taking it to that 1 week, I agree with that option to change that there.
Does anybody else have any other comments, or can we have a motion, please, Dr. Skidmore?
So move to accept the new amended reopening criteria, noting that criteria under recommendations for reopening criteria must be met for 1 week to 1 week to trigger change in learning modality.
Can we do this by roll call vote, please?
Dr. Skidmore,
Aye.
Mrs. Matura,
Aye.
Mrs. Greenberg,
I vote aye.
Mrs. Case,
I vote yes.
Mrs. Bacon,
Thank you. I have a few comments to make before I vote. I am not able to vote in favor of these new metrics, so I vote nay.
Thank you. The motion passes 4-1.